Hello, Dr. Watson here again with another video about marketing fundamentals. This time I want to talk about the actual definition of marketing. Most of the time people have become familiar with the 4 Ps of marketing. That would be product, price, place, and promotion. Well, in 2013, the American Marketing Association actually updated the definition of marketing, and instead of basing it around the 4 Ps, it is now around 4 ways of talking about value. And those new ways are creating value, communicating value, delivering value, and exchanging value. They correlate to the old one. So I have a graphic here that shows the creating is what used to be product, communicating is what used to be promotion, delivering is what used to be place, and now exchanging is what had been price. So I received a question from one of my students about what does a conversation about financial management have to do with marketing? And the answer is everything. So I boil the definition of marketing down into this. You need to make money now while building long-term brand value, right? So marketers, the goal of marketing, I should say, is to make money now while building long-term brand value. Okay, so because the question centered around how is money and financial management and marketing, how are those things related, I am going to use the 4 new ways of talking about marketing value to describe that. So I'm going to use creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging. I'm really going to focus on 3 of them, but we'll get into that because I really want to be able to answer the student's question. Okay, so we're going to talk about the car industry to start with. So obviously in terms of creating, the car companies, that's pretty easy. They create value by creating cars, right? So they create cars that they want you to purchase. They may be new EVs, they may be a work truck, but they are constantly creating, they're constantly coming out with new models. So in terms of starting the product life cycle over, the car brands are very great at that because most of the time people want kind of the latest or the greatest, and they're constantly rolling new products out every year. And then communicating, it's kind of hard to turn on, anything. Turn on your TV if you're watching a football game, or YouTube and the pre-rolls, or your phone, and not be bombarded by advertisements for vehicles. They take advantage of the entire gamut in terms of they do PR, where they're constantly, releasing their new, whatever it may be with regards to hybrid or sustainability or gas mileage or the new EV. So they're taking advantage of publicity. They're obviously taking advantage of sales. Sales is kind of, the auto industry is one of the ones that you think of the most whenever you think of sales. Advertising events, right? The big auto shows, in Detroit, hosting the annual automotive show where all of the big companies release the newest things that they've been doing. So they have communication really dialed in. And then delivering, they use a distribution model that relies on locally owned car dealerships. There have been some innovations in delivering, especially with Carvana. So Carvana actually has been the first one to implement like a car vending machine, which is really quite cool. So either you can go and you can actually get your car from the car vending machine, depending on the area that you live in. If you live in a city large enough that they have one of the Carvana vending machines, or Carvana really distinguished themselves by also doing delivery. So they were the first one to kind of take it so that you would do the entire car buying process online, which is very different than how it traditionally had been done, where you would go to the car dealerships, you'd spend all day, go into the different car dealerships, negotiating price, which is in the last one that we're going to talk about. And then driving the car home, right? And so Carvana introduced a completely different model in terms of delivering value in a completely different and distinctive and unique way. And then the last one is exchanging value. And this is the one where I really want to spend some time answering the question about what is the connection between money and marketing. Okay, so we traditionally think of, if we think about the 4 Ps, right? Exchanging is the one that correlates to the more traditional concept of price. It's really crazy how big of a difference there can be in what people pay for a product because of the difference in the value that is being exchanged. And I want to illustrate this. I've done the math using an auto loan calculator and just the standard averages for today. Today is September 18th, 2023. And so I just Googled, you can fact check me on this. The average car price I found to be $48,451 for a new car. So I wanted to find something that was most closely related to that. And what I found was the Chevy Silverado 2500. So we are going to use that. Now, as we're going through the foundational elements of marketing, the 4 components of marketing: creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging, we're going to be using this Chevy Silverado 2500 HD to do that, okay? So, looked it up online, and it said that you should expect to pay about $48,000 for a base-ish model for a 2023 Chevy Silverado HD. Okay, obviously creating is fairly self-explanatory. They created this truck. They also created a product to go along with it that could potentially help with the exchange of it, and that is promotional pricing or promotional buying. So I show a screenshot here for well-qualified buyers. That's an important denotation. For well-qualified buyers, you can qualify for a introductory or promotional rate of 2.1% for 36 months to be able to buy this truck, okay? That's the exchange portion of it, right? Whenever you're actually exchanging finances, whenever you're actually giving them the money in exchange for the vehicle, you're negotiating price, that it all falls into the exchange category of marketing value. Okay, well now here is what I want to really show though. If you are one of those well-qualified buyers, what does that mean? You're going to have the highest category of credit score. And you're also going to have to be, if you read the fine print, it said the example was you had to be able to have a 17.6% down payment. So I'm showing you the math here. You have to pay sales tax. It's 7% in the state of Georgia. So that is what I've used for the calculations. But you can see the price of the vehicle plus the price of actually financing it to be able to buy it. So if you can't write a check for it today, right? Obviously, if you can write a check for it today, you're only in for the price plus the sales tax. And so you're going to be looking at, $51,000-ish. However, most people cannot write a $51,000 check to be able to buy a new vehicle outright. So instead, in order to be able to exchange the value between Chevrolet and the customer with the purchase of it, there has to be some other way of being able to make that purchase. And so Chevy they have a financing arm, and they have this 2.1%. So total cost, if you were to actually be able to take advantage of their 2.1% for 36 months, that's a 3-year loan at 2.1%, you would pay the final price for you for that vehicle would be $52,653.56. Now, it says well-qualified buyers. There are way more buyers in Chevy's target audience than well-qualified ones, right? There are a lot of people. The auto industry is dependent on people buying vehicles way more than who have like super great credit scores. Okay, if you are to have a super prime credit score, but for whatever reason, maybe you don't have the down payment amount, right? So you don't have money to make a down payment. Now, for the purposes of my illustration, I'm assuming no trade-in value on a vehicle. Okay, so I just put zeros in for everything so that you could just see the concept at play. Okay, so if you don't have money for a down payment, but you have good credit, then right now, today, the interest rate on a loan and a 5-year loan is no longer the average loan length. It's actually kind of considered short. That used to be considered long, but now a 60-month one would be considered kind of short. That would be kind of a good one. So if you're super prime, which means you have a credit score of 781 or higher, you would qualify for a car loan at 5.07%. So if we do the math, you can see you still have to pay the 7% sales tax, but the price you're going to pay, the exchange value for you to be able to take that vehicle home, for you, if you have a 781 or higher credit score for a 60-month loan amount, you're going to pay $57,801.56. So you're paying over $5,200 more for that than the person who was able to take advantage, the well-qualified buyer, who was able to take advantage of the promotional rate. Okay, so they created a product, they created a financial product to go along with it. They advertised or promoted, they communicated both of those, and then through the dealership is how they're delivering all of it. And then the exchange is actually taking place through the loan, right? As you sign the paperwork and then make your monthly payments, that's the exchange taking place. Okay, now get this. If you are a subprime customer, this means that you would have a credit score between 501 and 600. So subprime, your interest rate, as of today, the average interest rate that a subprime customer would pay for the same vehicle would be 11.72%. The product is the same in terms of the vehicle itself. The delivery is the same. They've communicated. In fact, it was probably that 2.1% interest that they advertised, that might have actually drawn you in. However, you didn't see the small print that says well-qualified buyers, or you might not have known what it means to be a well-qualified buyer. And so you go in, you're interested, you wind up falling in love with a truck, or you need it for work or whatever. So the same truck, exchange value for a different customer, the price at 11.72% at what is the new average length of a car loan, which is 72 months, okay, so 6 years of car payments. That price for the same vehicle would be $70,423.30. You can see the math here on the auto loan calculator. Same product. Everybody has received the same communication about it. It's really delivered the same way, but the exchange value was very different depending on your credit history, your credit score, and then ultimately what the final price is that customer A, B, and C all wind up paying for the exact same thing. So customer A only paid $52,653, while customer C, the one who had to pay the most, wound up paying $70,423. So an $18,000 difference, almost an $18,000 difference for the same thing. Okay, now, I also want to show you that same thing broken out in housing, right? So the median home price in Atlanta, Georgia is $419,000. We just saw the difference of what happens whenever we're talking $48,000. Now, let's talk about what happens to the price, right, or the exchange component of marketing whenever you have people paying different rates in order for that exchange to take place. Most people, whenever they say, oh, well, what did you pay for your house? Oh, well, you say, oh, I paid $419, right? That was the list price, or that was the price that you as the buyer and the seller agreed to. However, that is not actually the price or the exchange value after you actually calculate what it costs you in interest to be able to purchase that if you are not a cash buyer that can just write a check for $419,000. And obviously, most people are not. We have an entire mortgage industry that supports this. So if you were to look at the differences, person A, who maybe takes advantage of some of the recent financial products that Bank of America has created, and they are couching it in terms of it being really beneficial for first-time homebuyers, or maybe even minority potential homeowners to be able to get into homes, and they're advertising super low. You only have to have 3% down, right? So only 3% down, and we can get you into a home today. If you are to take advantage of Bank of America's new product that they have created and they're communicating, right? And you purchase this $419,000 house, do you know what the price of that house will actually be whenever you are done with your 30 years worth of payments? I've done the math for you here. $1,040,000, over $1 million for the $419,000 house. Now, how much of that exchange value went to Bank of America? Over $600,000, more than what the actual price of the house was, right? Now, say you do not do a super low down payment like was being advertised by Bank of America, and instead you do a traditional 20% down, which gets you out of having to pay PMI or private mortgage insurance. If you do a 20% down payment, same house, for argument's sake, I'm going to use the same interest rate today. However, the difference in interest rate that you would get between between only having 3% down and having 20% down, there's going to be a difference. So these numbers are actually going to be more drastic, but just for illustrative purposes, I'm keeping the interest rate at 7.55%, which is the average mortgage rate listed for today. You can see here that this person is going to pay $199,000 and some change less for the exact same house. $200,000 less for the exact same thing, different price. Why? The exchange value, the exchange function of marketing was different from person A to person B, depending on the terms of the exchange. And obviously, if you are able to put the 20% down, the terms become much more favorable for you, the customer, as opposed to it being heavily tilted in the favor of the bank, who is basically the third party who is mitigating or allowing the purchase to take place, right? And then finally, and this is where it gets crazy, if you have been paying attention, you have been disciplined with your finances, and you are one of those who is able to take advantage of the super low interest rates that occurred back just 2 years ago. And instead of doing a traditional 30-year, you're able to do, say, a 15-year mortgage. And there were people, I personally know people, who have 15-year mortgages at 1.99%, 1.99% instead of 7.55. So 1.99% on a 15-year note. What does that person pay for the exchange? And you can see it here. They pay a tiny fraction to the bank. And instead, what can they do with that additional fund, right? The money that they aren't paying to the bank, how can they pay themselves with that? And that's the question. That then is the link between money management and marketing. The communication function of marketing is 100% meant to drive desire. The American dream, home ownership, graduating college, getting that new vehicle, getting that new TV, getting that new whatever. And there are a whole bunch of products that have been created to help you pay for those things. And that is in the exchange or pricing function of marketing. And it is such a foundational concept where most of the time people actually don't know what they're really paying for the products that they are buying. So the communication function is creating desire. I want the new iPhone. I want the new Apple Watch. I want this new Tesla. I want this new I want this maybe new wardrobe, this new outfit. And now you have things like Klarna that allow you to, just a few small payments, interest-free if. Or maybe buy this new Tempur-Pedic mattress, or buy this home improvement stuff, or buy this furniture, buy this jewelry, maybe buy this engagement ring. I've even seen there are, non-necessary medical procedures, things like breast augmentation, where it's now you can finance that 0% down for 60 months. And guess what happens at the end of that 60 months if you haven't paid it completely in full? The fine print shows you that they are going to charge you interest all the way back to day one. The purchase date, interest will be charged all the way then. And for 5 years, that interest has compounded. Most of them say roughly, it's like just shy 30%. Most of them are 24.99% to 29.99%. So for 5 years, because you didn't have the entire balance paid off at the end of the 5 years, charged between a quarter and a third of the value that has been compounding since day one, since the very first day. Now, again, what does marketing and money management have to do with one another? Communication and creation, they create that desire. Those functions of marketing create desire and awareness and social standards, and they drive consumer behavior, while the exchange function of the marketing definition allows for very, very different prices to be paid, which really, going back to the goals of marketing, make money now and build long-term brand value. If I can get you to buy now, if I can convince you to buy now, even though you don't have the money, well, that's okay, interest-free for 5 years. You look at the price, it's like, oh, that's a great price. It's a $48,000 truck. Well, you're not going to be paying $48,000 for that truck. You're going to be paying $70,000 for that truck. You're not going to be paying $3,500 for that ring. You're going to be paying $5,200 or $6,000 for that ring or that watch. And so the companies, the marketers, are really enhancing their margins through the exchange terms that they add to the purchase of these products that they have created desire for. But if you can't write the check for it right now, if the money isn't in the bank right now, that's okay. They'll sell it to you. They'll exchange you debt, right? The exchange at that point is debt with interest in order for you to be able to take the truck home today, in order for you to be able to move into the house in 30 days, in order for you to be able to take the ring or the watch home today. What are you exchanging for that? 5 to 7 to 30 years worth of debt at a super high interest rate that changes the price of the product and changes ultimately the margins that the company is going to get from that. But obviously in their favor, not yours. Look at the list of the largest companies in the US according to Forbes. All of the ones that I have highlighted are financial services companies, they're banks. Debt, interest is how they make their money. The ones that are in yellow, they actually sell things, but they also have a financial services arm, and where part of their product portfolio is making money off of payment plans and interest, right? So Google Pay, Apple Pay, and Walmart banking services or Walmart money centers. So hopefully this helps explain how financial management and financial practices play into the very functional components of marketing. And hopefully it will help you be a better consumer, managing your finances while navigating the purchases of the things that you really want.